Manfurter of the Old Kingdom, 2686-2181 BCE, the Age of Pyramids. The epoch when humanity touched eternity. Introduction, when kings became gods and stone became eternal. The Old Kingdom of Egypt, spanning approximately 5 centuries from 2686 to 2181 BCE, represents one of the most extraordinary achievements in human history. A civilization that transformed architectural ambition into eternal stone, elevated kingship to divinity, created bureaucratic systems of unprecedented sophistication, and produced monuments that have awed humanity for over 4 millennia. This was the age that built the pyramids, the era that saw pharaohs command resources on a scale unmatched in the ancient world, the period when Egyptian civilization reached heights of centralized power and monumental achievement that would never quite be equaled again, even in Egypt's later periods of greatness. The Old Kingdom is sometimes called the Pyramid Age, and with good reason, virtually every major pyramid in Egypt was constructed during this period, including the 3 great pyramids of Giza that remain among the most recognizable structures on Earth. But the Old Kingdom was far more than pyramids. It was the period when hieroglyphic writing reached maturity, when Egyptian art achieved the classical style that would define the civilization's aesthetic for 3,000 years, when the concept of divine kingship was fully articulated and implemented, when Egypt's trade networks extended from Lebanon to Punt, probably modern Somalia, and when the Egyptian state demonstrated organizational capabilities that stagger the imagination. Yet this golden age would end in catastrophe. Climate change, economic exhaustion from massive building projects, the decentralization of power as provincial nobles gained autonomy, and finally, social collapse would bring the Old Kingdom crashing down around 2181 BCE, plunging Egypt into the chaos of the First Intermediate Period. But even in collapse, the Old Kingdom's achievements would remain. Its pyramids, its art, its texts, and above all, its vision of what human civilization could accomplish would inspire and challenge every subsequent generation of Egyptians and, eventually, all of humanity. The Third Dynasty, 2686-2613 BCE, the birth of monumental stone architecture. The revolutionary reign of Giza, circa 2666-2667 BCE. The Third Dynasty and the Old Kingdom proper began with one of ancient Egypt's most revolutionary kings. Giza, also called Netjereket, his Horus name, though Giza was the name by which later Egyptians remembered him. Giza's reign, lasting approximately 19 years from around 2686 to 2667 BCE, would witness the most dramatic architectural innovation in Egyptian history, the transformation from mud brick construction to monumental stone architecture, culminating in the world's first large-scale stone building complex, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. Historical context. When Giza came to the throne around 2686 BCE, Egypt had been unified for approximately 4 centuries. The institutions of pharaonic government, the bureaucracy, provincial administration, taxation systems, labor mobilization mechanisms were well established. The ideology of divine kingship was mature. The economy was productive and capable of generating substantial surpluses. The artistic conventions of Egyptian culture were developing toward their classical forms. In short, Egypt was ready for its next great leap forward. Yet architecture remained conservative, Royal tombs of the early dynastic period and early Third Dynasty were mastabas rectangular mud brick structures with sloping sides, typically containing underground burial chambers beneath superstructures that might include storage rooms, chapels, and offering spaces. These were impressive for their time, some reaching 60-70 meters in length, but they were impermanent compared to stone, vulnerable to erosion and decay, and limited in their symbolic power. Joseph's reign would change everything. The political and economic foundation. Joseph's ability to undertake revolutionary building projects rested on solid political and economic foundations. Political stability. The Second Dynasty had ended with Kasekemwe's reunification, establishing firm royal control. Joseph inherited a stable, unified kingdom with functioning governmental institutions. Provincial governors, nomarchs, recognized royal authority. There's no evidence of significant internal opposition or external threats during his reign. Economic prosperity. Agricultural production was high, generating surpluses that could support non-productive workers. Trade networks brought valuable materials: cedar from Lebanon, copper from Sinai, turquoise and malachite from desert mines. The taxation system efficiently extracted surplus and transferred it to royal warehouses. Labor conscription systems could mobilize tens of thousands of workers for royal projects. Ideological climate. The concept of divine kingship was becoming increasingly elaborate. The king was understood as Horus incarnate, mediator between gods and humans. Royal power to command nature, through irrigation, building, demonstrated divine sanction. Monumental architecture could serve as permanent testament to royal divine power. Military success. Inscriptions from Joseph's reign reference military expeditions to Sinai and Nubia. These campaigns secured access to crucial resources: copper, turquoise, gold, exotic goods. Military success reinforced royal legitimacy and provided resources for building projects. The king's role as military protector justified his absolute authority. Imhotep, the first architect. Known to history. At the center of Joseph's architectural revolution stood Imhotep, one of the most remarkable figures in human history and the first architect, engineer, and physician whose name and achievements were recorded for posterity. While earlier societies certainly had skilled builders, someone designed the early dynastic mastabas and the temples of Mesopotamia. Imhotep is the first whose individual genius was recognized and remembered. Who was Imhotep? Our knowledge of Imhotep comes from multiple sources spanning thousands of years. Contemporary sources: Third Dynasty, circa 2650 BCE. Inscriptions on the Step Pyramid complex identify Imhotep by an extraordinary array of titles. Chancellor of the King of Lower Egypt. Chati, usually translated vizier. Chief Minister of the Government. Administrator of the Great Palace. Overseer of Royal Residence. Hereditary Nobleman. Member of the Elite. High Priest of Heliopolis. Chief Priest of Ra at Egypt's most important religious center. Chief of Sculptors. Overseer of Royal Artistic Production. Chief Carpenter. Overseer of Construction. This combination of titles is unprecedented. Imhotep simultaneously held the highest governmental, religious, and architectural offices in Egypt. He was effectively Djoser's right hand, the executor of royal vision, and the practical genius who transformed ambition into reality. His family background. Imhotep was not of royal blood. His father, Khanefer, was an architect, suggesting Imhotep inherited professional knowledge. His mother, Kredwank, was apparently from Memphis. This non-royal origin makes his rise even more remarkable. He achieved his position through ability, not birth. Later Egyptian memory. New Kingdom, 1550–1077 BCE. By the New Kingdom, more than 1,000 years after Imhotep's death, he had become a legendary figure. He was revered as a sage and author of wisdom texts. Scribes would pour libations to Imhotep before beginning work, honoring him as patron of their profession. He was credited with medical knowledge and healing powers. His reputation as architect of the Step Pyramid remained strong. He was increasingly associated with magic and wisdom, late period and Greco-Roman times, 664 BCE, 395 CE. By the late period, Imhotep had been deified. He was worshipped as a god of medicine and healing. Temples were dedicated to him at Memphis and elsewhere. Bronze statuettes of Imhotep, showing him as a seated scribe holding a papyrus roll, were common votive offerings. Sick people made pilgrimages to his temples seeking miraculous healing. The Greeks identified him with their healing god Asclepius. His cult continued into Roman times, with Greeks and Romans worshipping him alongside native Egyptians. Imhotep's achievement, the Step Pyramid Complex. Imhotep's masterpiece, and arguably the most important building project in early Egyptian history, was the Step Pyramid Complex at Saqqara. A revolutionary architectural achievement that fundamentally changed Egyptian and human architecture forever. The original plan, Phase 1, circa 2667–2665 BCE. The project began conservatively, with plans for a traditional mastaba tomb. Initial design. A square mastaba, approximately 63 meters at the base, built of limestone blocks rather than mud brick. Already an innovation. The limestone came from nearby quarries at Tura, transported across the Nile. Height would have been approximately 8 to 10 meters. Underground burial chamber reached by vertical shaft. Storage galleries for grave goods and offerings. This initial plan, while using stone, wasn't revolutionary. It was essentially a stone version of the traditional elite tomb. But something changed during construction. The revolutionary expansion, phases 2–6, circa 2665–2650 BCE. For reasons we can only speculate about, perhaps Djoser's extended reign allowed for more elaborate plans, perhaps increased resources became available, perhaps Imhotep's architectural vision evolved, perhaps religious or political considerations suggested something grander was needed. The initial mastaba design was abandoned in favor of something unprecedented, a stepped pyramid. Phase 2, the first expansion. The original mastaba was extended on all sides. The new structure measured approximately 71.5 and 71.5 meters. Height increased slightly. This created a larger but still essentially traditional mastaba. Phase 3, the four-step pyramid. The revolutionary change. Instead of a single-story mastaba, Imhotep began stacking successively smaller mastaba forms on top of each other. This created a four-step pyramid rising to approximately 40 meters. The structure was approximately 85, 5x 77 meters at the base. This was completely unprecedented. No structure like this had ever been built. Phase 4. Extension to the east. The four-step pyramid was extended eastward. This created an unusual rectangular rather than square base. The extension accommodated additional underground galleries for burial equipment. Phase 5 to 6. The final six-step pyramid. The structure was extended on the north and west sides. 2 additional steps were added, creating the final six-step form. Final dimensions. Base, 121 x 109 meters, roughly 140,000 square meters. Height, 62.5 meters, approximately 20-story building. The volume, approximately 330,400 cubic meters. Estimated weight, over 850,000 tons. The structure was encased in fine white Tura limestone, most now lost due to later quarrying. The gleaming white surface must have been visible for miles, a stunning declaration of royal power. Why a step pyramid? The symbolic meaning. The step pyramid form wasn't merely architectural innovation, it carried profound religious and political symbolism. As stairway to heaven. Egyptian religious texts speak of the king ascending to join the gods after death. The pyramid steps provided a literal staircase for the king's spirit, Ka, to climb to the sky. Each step brought the king closer to the celestial realm. The structure embodied the path to immortality. As mountain primeval. Egyptian creation mythology featured the Benben, the primordial mound, that first emerged from the waters of chaos, Nun, at creation. The pyramid's shape evoked this primordial mound. The king's tomb thus symbolically represented creation itself. By being buried in this structure, the king associated himself with the original act of creation. As solar symbol. The pyramid's stair-step form resembled the rays of the sun descending from heaven to earth. The sun god Ra was becoming increasingly important in Egyptian religion. The pyramid connected the king with solar theology. White limestone casing suggested the brilliant light of the sun. As declaration of royal power. The pyramid's unprecedented size demonstrated the king's ability to command vast resources. Its permanence in stone versus perishable mud brick suggested eternal royal power. Its visibility for miles around proclaimed royal authority across the landscape. The technical achievement proved royal divine sanction. Only with God's favor could such a feat be accomplished. The underground complex, a stone city for the dead. As impressive as the pyramid superstructure was, the underground chambers beneath and around it were equally revolutionary. The central shaft. A vertical shaft, 7 meters square and 28 meters deep, descended from the pyramid's center to the burial chamber. The shaft was lined with massive granite blocks from Aswan, transported over 800 kilometers. At the bottom, a granite-lined burial chamber housed Djoser's sarcophagus. The chamber measured approximately 3,165 meters, surprisingly modest for such a grand tomb. The underground galleries. Radiating from the central shaft were over 5.7 kilometers of corridors and chambers carved into the bedrock. These galleries contained storage rooms for grave goods, chambers decorated with blue faience tiles imitating reed matting, rooms containing thousands of stone vessels, over 40,000 were found. Chambers with relief sculpture showing Giza performing rituals. Storage for food, furniture, clothing, and everything needed in the afterlife. The faience chambers. Several underground rooms were decorated with blue-green faience tiles. These tiles formed panels imitating reed matting on walls. The brilliant color, Egyptian blue, one of the first synthetic pigments, created stunning visual effects. This represented some of the finest decorative work in ancient Egypt. The faience technology demonstrated sophisticated chemical knowledge. The stone vessels. Over 40,000 stone vessels were found in the underground galleries, made from various materials: alabaster, diorite, granite, schist, porphyry. Many showed extraordinary craftsmanship: thin walls, intricate shapes, perfect symmetry. Some dated to earlier dynasties, suggesting Giza collected antiques. The sheer quantity represented enormous wealth and demonstrated royal ability to command artisan production. The Pyramid Complex, a complete sacred city. The step pyramid wasn't an isolated structure. It was the centerpiece of a vast walled complex spanning 15 hectares, 37 acres, the world's first large-scale stone architectural complex. Imhotep designed not just a tomb, but an entire ceremonial city in stone, intended to serve the king's needs for eternity. The enclosure wall, circa 2665-2650 BCE. The entire complex was surrounded by an enormous white limestone wall. Dimensions: length 544, 9 meters north-south, width 277.6 meters east-west, height 10.5 meters originally, thickness approximately 2.5 meters at base. Design: the wall featured 14 dummy gates, false doors carved in relief, and one real entrance. The exterior was decorated with recessed paneling, alternating projections and recesses, imitating the palace Serek design. This paneling created a striking play of light and shadow across the vast wall surface. The wall's brilliant white limestone announced the complex's sacred nature from great distances. Purpose: physically separated sacred space, the king's eternal realm, from profane space, the world of mortals, protected the tomb from robbers and desecration, created a temenos, sacred precinct, for eternal rituals honoring the dead king, symbolically recreated the walls of Memphis, allowing the king to rule eternally from his stone capital. The entrance colonnade, circa 2660 BCE. The complex's single true entrance led to one of ancient architecture's marvels, the colonnade. Description: a long corridor flanked by 20 pairs of engaged columns, 40 columns total. Columns were attached to walls, engaged. Rather than freestanding early architects, hadn't yet developed confidence in freestanding stone columns. Each column measured approximately 6 meters tall. Columns were fluted, carved with vertical grooves, imitating bundled plant stems. The roof consisted of massive stone slabs spanning the corridor. Significance: this was among the earliest uses of monumental stone columns in architecture. The design translated earlier wood and plant fiber architecture into permanent stone. The colonnade created a dramatic processional way, preparing visitors psychologically for the sacred spaces beyond. Light and shadow effects through the colonnade created a mystical atmosphere. symbolic architecture, buildings for eternal ritual. Within the enclosure, Imhotep created a series of structures designed to allow the dead king to continue performing the rituals that legitimized his kingship. The South Tomb, circa 2660 BCE. A mysterious structure south of the main pyramid. Description: a massive underground complex accessed by a shaft. Chambers decorated with reliefs showing Djoser performing the Heb-Sed festival. A miniature step pyramid superstructure above ground. Underground galleries contained blue faience chambers, similar to those beneath the main pyramid. Purpose: debated. Possibly a tomb for the king's Kai, life force, while the main pyramid housed the body. Perhaps a cenotaph, symbolic tomb, representing Upper Egypt, while the main pyramid represented Lower Egypt. Possibly storage for the king's viscera or royal regalia might represent the king's role as ruler of Upper Egypt specifically. The Heb-Sed court, circa 2658 BCE. A large open courtyard designed for the eternal celebration of the Heb-Sed, the Royal Jubilee Festival. The Heb-Sed Festival. Traditional Egyptian festival celebrating the king's continued vigor and renewing his right to rule. Typically celebrated after 30 years of reign, then at shorter intervals, involved elaborate rituals. The king ran between markers representing Upper and Lower Egypt, demonstrating physical vitality, the kin. G received homage from provincial governors. The king made offerings to various gods. Priests performed purification and renewal rituals. The festival symbolically renewed the king's kingship, proving he remained fit to rule. The Stone Court. A large rectangular courtyard, approximately 180 x 100 meters. At the south end, a series of chapels for the gods of different nomes, provinces, stone markers, representing the boundaries of Egypt for the king to run between eternally. Reliefs showing Djoser performing Heb-Sed rituals. The architecture allowed the dead king to celebrate the Heb-Sed eternally, continuously renewing his kingship. The House of the North and House of the South. Two structures representing the dual nature of Egyptian kingship, rule over both Upper and Lower Egypt. Design. The House of the North featured papyrus columns. Papyrus grew in the Delta, Lower Egypt. The House of the South featured lotus columns. Lotus represented Upper Egypt. Both were symbolic structures. They had no interior rooms, only facades, but they represented the king's eternal rule over both regions. Purpose. Allowed the king to eternally receive tribute and homage from both parts of Egypt, symbolized the unification that was central to pharaonic ideology, provided settings for eternal rituals honoring the king as unifier. The technical achievement. How was it built? The step pyramid complex represented unprecedented technical challenges. How did Imhotep and his workforce actually construct these massive stone structures? Quarrying. Stone sources. Local limestone, from quarries near Saqqara for most construction. Fine Tura limestone, from quarries across the Nile for casing stones and decorative elements. Granite, from Aswan, 800 plus kilometers south, for burial chamber. Alabaster from Hatnub, Middle Egypt, for vessels and decorative elements. Quarrying techniques. Workers used copper chisels and wooden wedges to split stone along natural fissure lines. For granite, much harder than limestone. Workers used dolerite pounders' balls of hard stone used to pound away softer rock. Wedges were driven into cracks and then wetted with water. As the wood expanded, it split the rock. Workers cut trenches around blocks, then undercut them to free them from bedrock. Evidence of these techniques comes from unfinished stone blocks still in ancient quarries. Transportation. Moving stones from quarries to Saqqara required sophisticated logistics. River transport. Blocks were hauled to the Nile on sledges pulled by teams of workers. At the river, blocks were loaded onto boats. During the annual inundation, when the Nile flooded, water levels rose, allowing boats to navigate closer to construction sites. Tura limestone from East Bank was floated across the Nile to the West Bank. Aswan granite traveled over 800 kilometer downriver, a journey of weeks. Land transport. From the Nile harbor to the construction site, approximately 2 kilometers, blocks were moved on sledges. Workers pulled sledges over tracks made slippery by pouring water on the sand. Experiments show this reduces friction dramatically. For the pyramid itself, stone blocks, averaging 300 kilo, some much heavier, had to be raised to progressively higher levels. Construction ramps. How were blocks lifted? The most likely method involved ramps. Theories. Single straight ramp. A massive ramp leading up one face of the pyramid. Problem. As the pyramid grew, the ramp would need to be enormously long, low gradient, or impossibly steep. Problem. The volume of material for the ramp might exceed the pyramid's volume. Spiral ramp. A ramp wrapping around the pyramid's exterior. Problem. Makes it difficult to check the pyramid's corners and alignment as construction proceeds. Internal ramps. Ramps built within the pyramid's structure. Advantage. Doesn't require massive external ramp infrastructure. Problem. How to fill the interior space after construction without demolishing ramps. Combination approach. Most likely, external ramps for the bulk of construction, levers, rockers, and additional ramps for final positioning. Multiple smaller ramps rather than one massive one. Ramps removed and material reused as construction progressed. Labor force. Scale. Modern estimates suggest 15,000 to 20,000 workers during peak construction seasons. Work was probably seasonal, taking advantage of periods when agricultural work was minimal, during the inundation when fields were flooded. Permanent core workforce of skilled craftsmen, stonecutters, masons, sculptors, larger seasonal workforce of conscript laborers, fulfilling their labor obligation to the state. Organization. Workers were organized into gangs, typically 1,000 to 2,000 men, with colorful names like Friends of Khufu or Drunkards of Menkaure. These names come from later pyramid texts. Each gang was divided into files, groups of about 200 men. Each file was divided into smaller work crews, typically 20-40 men. This hierarchical organization allowed efficient coordination of large-scale work, logistics. Workers needed to be fed, housed, and provided with tools. Evidence from worker settlements near pyramids shows barracks-style housing, bakeries producing thousands of loaves daily, breweries, beer was the standard beverage, slaughterhouses processing cattle, sheep, and goats, medical facilities for treating injured workers, administrative buildings where scribes recorded production. The logistical challenge of supporting 15,000, 20,000 workers was enormous. This workforce consumed hundreds of tons of bread, meat, and beer weekly. Timeline. How long did construction take? Modern estimates vary, but reasonable reconstruction suggests total time 1927 years, Djoser's reign length, planning and preparation, 1-3 years, initial mastaba phase, 2-3 years, expansion to 4-step pyramid, 3-5 years, final expansion to 6-step pyramid, 5-7 years, enclosure wall and subsidiary buildings, 5-10 years, overlapping with pyramid construction, decoration and finishing, 2-3 years. Many elements were constructed simultaneously. Quarrying continued while earlier blocks were being dressed and set. Different gangs worked on different parts of the complex, etc. Warstu, the legacy of Djoser and Imhotep. The step pyramid complex revolutionized Egyptian architecture and had lasting impacts. Immediate architectural impact. Proved that monumental stone architecture was possible. Established stone as the preferred material for royal and sacred building. Created a template for royal tomb complexes pyramid as central element surrounded by ritualistic structures. Demonstrated organizational capabilities that made the later pyramids at Giza possible. Religious impact. Established the pyramid form as ideal royal tomb. Connected pyramid burial with solar theology, the shape suggesting sun rays. Created the model of tomb as eternal ritual space where the dead king continued performing his royal duties. Influenced pyramid text development. The earliest appear in later Old Kingdom pyramids. Cultural impact. Imhotep's reputation established the principle that individual genius deserved recognition. The complex became a pilgrimage site almost immediately. Graffiti from later periods shows visitors admiring it. New Kingdom texts describe the step pyramid as an ancient wonder. Djoser became one of the most remembered Old Kingdom kings, his fame resting on his building achievement. Later Egyptian memory. Throughout Egyptian history, the step pyramid remained an object of awe and veneration. Kings of later periods, particularly the 26th dynasty, circa 664 to 525 BCE, tried to restore and preserve it. Imhotep was eventually deified, the only non-royal Egyptian to receive such honor. The step pyramid influenced later architecture. The bent pyramid, the red pyramid, and ultimately the true pyramids at Giza, all descended from Imhotep's innovation. The 4th dynasty, 2630–2494 BCE, the Golden Age of Pyramids. Introduction. When Egypt built eternity. If the 3rd dynasty invented monumental stone architecture, the 4th dynasty perfected it. The approximately 120 years of the 4th dynasty, from roughly 2613 to 2494 BCE, witnessed the construction of Egypt's largest, most perfect, and most enduring monuments. The true pyramids at Dashur and Giza, including the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the only surviving wonder of the ancient world. This dynasty saw Egyptian civilization operating at peak efficiency, centralized royal power at its apex, administrative systems functioning smoothly, economic surplus at its greatest, artistic achievement at its classical height, and religious ideology fully developed and implemented. The 4th dynasty was founded by Sneferu, circa 2613–2589 BCE, one of Egypt's most active builder kings, who constructed multiple pyramids and perfected the true pyramid form. His son, Khufu, circa 2589–2566 BCE, Greek Cheops, built the Great Pyramid at Giza. Khufu's successors, Jedefreak, circa 2586–2538 BCE, Na-Khafre, circa 2532 BCE, Greek Chephren, and Menkaure, circa 2523 BCE, Greek Mycerinus, continued the pyramid-building tradition, though on a somewhat smaller scale. This was Egypt's golden age of pyramid construction. Never before and never again would Egyptian kings command such resources and devote them so single-mindedly to monument construction. The Fourth Dynasty pyramids represented the pinnacle of ancient engineering, organizational prowess, an ideological commitment to the concept of divine kingship, made manifest in eternal stone. Sneferu, the pyramid builder king, circa 2613–2589 BCE. Sneferu, meaning he has perfected me, founder of the Fourth Dynasty, was one of ancient Egypt's most remarkable kings. His approximately 24-year reign saw unprecedented building activity. He constructed more pyramids and moved more stone than any other pharaoh, pioneering the techniques and organizational systems that would make the Great Pyramid possible. The political foundation. Sneferu's accession marked a new dynasty, suggesting a break, though probably not a hostile one, with the Third Dynasty. He may have been a son of the last Third Dynasty king, Huni, by a secondary wife. He married Hetepheres I, who may have had royal blood from the Third Dynasty, legitimizing his claim. His son Khufu would build on this foundation to establish the greatest of Egyptian dynasties Sneferu's reign saw. Continued political stability and centralization of power, military expeditions to Nubia, south, and Libya, west, securing borders and resources, trade expeditions to Lebanon for cedar wood, Sinai for copper and turquoise. Expansion of governmental bureaucracy to manage increasingly complex projects. The pyramid at Meidum, circa 2613–2600 BCE. Sneferu's first pyramid project was at Meidum, approximately 100 kilometers south of Cairo. Original design. Probably begun by Huni, last king of Third Dynasty. Initially a 7-step pyramid, later expanded to 8 steps, Sneferu transformed it into a true pyramid by filling in the steps and adding smooth outer casing. Dimensions. Base, approximately 144 x 144 meters. Original height, approximately 92 meters, if completed as planned. Slope angle, approximately 51 degrees. This would become standard for later pyramids. The transformation. The step pyramid was given a smooth outer casing of fine Tura limestone. This created the first true pyramid structure, with smooth sloping sides, meeting at an apex. The transformation from stepped to smooth sides represented an important symbolic evolution. Stepped pyramids were stairways to heaven. Smooth pyramids more directly represented sun rays, descending from heaven to earth, connecting the pyramid to solar theology. The mysterious collapse. At some point, possibly during construction, possibly centuries later, the Meidum Pyramid's outer casing collapsed. Today it stands as a 3-step tower, rising from an enormous rubble mound. Theories for collapse include design flaws. The added casing wasn't properly bonded to the inner step structure, earthquake damage, later stone robbing that undermined structural integrity, foundation problems in the sandy subsoil. The collapse may have occurred during Sneferu's reign, prompting changes to subsequent designs. The bent pyramid at Dashur, circa 2600–2595 BCE. Sneferu's second pyramid, the bent pyramid at Dashur, about 40 kilometers south of Cairo, is one of ancient architecture's most intriguing structures. The distinctive shape. The pyramid's lower portion rises at approximately 54–20 fantevas. About halfway up, at approximately 47 meters height, the angle suddenly changes to approximately 43°22. This creates the distinctive bent appearance that gives the pyramid its modern name. No other Egyptian pyramid has this shape. It's unique in pharaonic architecture. Dimensions: base 188.6, 188.6 meters, height 101.1 meters, 105 meters originally, volume approximately 1,237,000 cubic meters. This makes it the fourth largest pyramid in Egypt by volume. Why the bend? Theories. The bent shape has generated extensive scholarly debate. Theory. 1. Structural crisis. During construction. Most widely accepted explanation: the collapse or threatening collapse of the Meidum Pyramid may have occurred during the bent pyramid's construction. Engineers, worried about stability, reduced the angle mid-construction to reduce stress on the structure. This prevented collapse, but created the unusual shape. Supporting evidence. Cracks in the internal chambers suggest the structure was under stress. Theory 2. Design change for practical reasons. Sneferu may have been elderly or ill. Reducing the angle allowed faster completion of the pyramid. The king wanted to ensure his tomb was finished before his death. Theory 3. Deliberate symbolic design. Some scholars argue the bent shape was intentional. The dual angles might represent the duality of Egyptian kingship, Upper and Lower Egypt, or represent the king's dual nature, human and divine. However, most Egyptologists find this less convincing. Later pyramids' uniform slopes suggest the bent shape wasn't ideal. Unique features. The bent pyramid retains most of its original smooth limestone casing. It's the best preserved pyramid exterior in Egypt. The highly polished white limestone still gleams in sunlight, giving us a sense of how all pyramids originally appeared. 2 entrance passages, north and west sides, unique among pyramids. Cedar wood beams remain in some chambers, imported from Lebanon at great expense. The internal chambers are corbel vaulted, stones overlapping inward to create a ceiling. Early example of this technique. The Valley Temple. The Bent Pyramid Complex includes one of the earliest Pyramid Valley temples, located at the edge of cultivation where boats could dock, connected to the pyramid by a causeway, covered corridor. This became the standard pattern for later pyramid complexes. Valley Temple, causeway, mortuary temple, pyramid. The Red Pyramid at Dashur, circa 2595–2589 BCE. Sneferu's third and final pyramid, the Red Pyramid, named for the reddish limestone of its exposed core, represents the culmination of his architectural experiments and the first successful true pyramid. The achievement. This is Egypt's first successful completed true pyramid with smooth sides from base to apex. The structural problems of Meidum and the design concerns of the bent pyramid were solved. Dimensions: base 220 x 220 meters, height 104 meters, 105 meters originally, slope angle 43°22, the same as the bent pyramid's upper section conservative design learned from experience. Volume approximately 1,694,000 cubic meters. This makes it the third largest pyramid in Egypt after Khufu and Khafra design success. The shallower angle compared to the bent pyramid's lower section, or Madam's 50 reduced stress on the structure. The pyramid has stood stable for over 4,600 years with minimal damage. Internal chambers show no stress cracks like those in the bent pyramid. The conservative design sacrificed dramatic height for structural integrity, a wise trade-off. Internal structure: 3 chambers stacked vertically, all with spectacular corbel vaults. The vaulted ceilings rise to heights of 12 to 15 meters, creating cathedral-like spaces. These are among the finest corbel-vaulted chambers in ancient Egyptian architecture. Chambers are accessed by a long descending corridor, starting from the north face. The burial chamber contained Sneferu's sarcophagus, now empty, robbed in antiquity. The name, though called Red Pyramid, because when the white limestone casing was removed, probably in Middle Ages for building in Cairo, the reddish-brown core limestone was exposed. Originally, like all pyramids, it was covered in gleaming white Tura limestone. Ancient name was Sneferu Shines, or the Shining Pyramid of Sneferu. Historical significance: the Red Pyramid proved that true pyramids could be built successfully and safely. It established the techniques and organizational systems that Khufu would use for the Great Pyramid. It demonstrated that a shallower angle, around 43 degrees, was structurally sound for large pyramids. Sneferu's total stone volume. The truly staggering fact about Sneferu's reign: Medum Pyramid, approximately 635,000 cubic meters of stone. Bent Pyramid, approximately 1,237,000 cubic meters. Red Pyramid, approximately 1,694,000 cubic meters. Total, approximately 3,566,000 cubic meters. By comparison, Great Pyramid of Khufu, approximately 2,583,000 cubic meters. Sneferu moved more stone than any other pharaoh, approximately 40%, more than his son Khufu, who built the largest single pyramid. The organizational achievement this represents is almost incomprehensible. Labor and resources. To build 3 massive pyramids in approximately 24 years required. Workforce. Probably 30,000, 40,000 workers during peak construction seasons. Multiple pyramid sites operating simultaneously. Evidence suggests overlapping construction. Massive quarrying operations at Tura, Aswan, and local sites. Vast support infrastructure. Housing, food production, tool manufacturing, medical care, economic impact. Enormous percentage of Egypt's GDP devoted to royal construction. Agricultural surplus sufficient to support non-productive workforce. Trade networks bringing cedar from Lebanon, copper from Sinai, granite from Aswan. Administrative systems capable of coordinating these complex operations. Why 3 pyramids? Why did Sneferu build 3 pyramids when one would suffice for burial? Theories. 1. Learning a process. Each pyramid represented refinement of technique. Maidum, first attempt at true pyramid, structural problems. Bent pyramid, second attempt, angle adjustment mid-construction. Red pyramid, successful design 2. Multiple burial sites. Different pyramids for different aspects of the king's being, ka in bae, body, or pyramids representing Upper Egypt, south, and Lower Egypt, north. 3. Religious evolution. As solar theology became more important, older pyramid designs became religiously obsolete. New pyramids reflected evolving religious understanding. Political statements. Each pyramid at different location demonstrated royal control over different regions. Multiple pyramids showed unprecedented power and resources. Practical necessity. Structural problems made earlier pyramids unsuitable for actual burial. Each new pyramid was intended as the actual tomb, but circumstances changed. Most likely, the explanation combines several factors: learning from mistakes, religious evolution, and demonstrating power. Legacy of Sneferu. Established pyramid building as supreme expression of royal power, perfected the true pyramid form, created organizational systems for massive construction projects, made possible his son Khufu's even more ambitious project, remembered in Egyptian tradition as an ideal king-wise, powerful, generous. Middle Kingdom stories portrayed him as a benevolent ruler who brought prosperity. Darat Team's Khufu and the Great Pyramid, the apex of ancient achievement, circa 2589-2566 BCE. Khufu, Khnum, Khnum protects me. Greek, Cheops, succeeded his father Sneferu around 2589 BCE and ruled for approximately 23 years. His reign is dominated by a single achievement so monumental that it has defined his legacy for 4,600 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the largest pyramid ever built, the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, and arguably humanity's most impressive architectural achievement before the modern era. The King, what we know and don't know. Paradoxically, Khufu, builder of the world's most famous monument, remains mysterious as a historical personality. What we know. From contemporary sources. Multiple statues and inscriptions bear his name. The Great Pyramid and its associated complex clearly identify him as builder. Marks in the pyramid's relieving chambers, discovered 1837, include his name and reign dates. Administrative papyri from his reign show the complex systems managing pyramid construction. A tiny ivory statue, 5 cm tall, found at Abydos, is the only surviving three-dimensional representation of Khufu from later Egyptian tradition. Middle Kingdom texts remember him as a powerful king. The Westcar Papyrus, Middle Kingdom, presents him as interested in magic and miracles. He's remembered as pious builder of great monuments. His pyramid was already considered ancient and awe-inspiring by the Middle Kingdom. What we don't know. His personality and character. Ancient sources provide little personal detail. The details of his reign beyond construction projects. Military campaigns, probably occurred but poorly documented. His relationships with family members and officials, why he chose Giza for his pyramid complex, how he mobilized resources for such an unprecedented project. Greek and Roman views. Later, Greek and Roman writers painted a very different picture. Herodotus, circa 440 BCE. Writing 2,000 years after Khufu, Herodotus presented him as a tyrant. Claimed Khufu closed temples and oppressed Egyptians. Said he forced his daughter into prostitution to fund pyramid construction. claimed 100,000 workers labored on the pyramid for 20 years, described the pyramid as monument to royal arrogance and oppression. Problems with Herodotus. He wrote 2,000-plus years after Khufu, relying on stories told by Egyptian priests. The priests may have been spinning tales for credulous foreign tourists, or Herodotus misunderstood what he was told. Archaeological evidence contradicts the oppression. Narrative workers' settlements show they were well fed, housed, and received medical care. Modern reassessment. Khufu was probably no more tyrannical than other Old Kingdom pharaohs. The pyramid required enormous resources, but was built over decades through organized labor systems, not slave labor. Egyptian tradition generally remembered him positively. The negative Greek portrayals may reflect Greek values, suspicion of monarchy and hubris, rather than Egyptian reality. The Great Pyramid, Anatomy of a Wonder, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Ancient name Akhet Khufu, meaning horizon of Khufu, or the horizon in which Khufu becomes an Akh spirit, stands as humanity's most ambitious architectural project for over 3,800 years, until Lincoln Cathedral's spire in 1311 CE surpassed its height. Dimensions and statistics. Original dimensions, circa 2566 BCE. Base, 233 meters per side. Average sides varied by less than 2 centimeters. Height 146.6 meters, 280 Egyptian royal cubits. Slope angle, 51 degree FD40. Volume, approximately 2,583,283 cubic meters. Mass estimated 5.9 million tons. Number of blocks, approximately 2.3 million. Average block weight, 2.5 tons. Some much larger, up to 80 tons. Current dimensions. Height, 138.8 meters. Top 8 meters missing. Condition. Most outer casing removed, used for building Cairo in Middle Ages. Core structure. Intact and stable after 4,600 years. Precision and accuracy. The Great Pyramid's construction demonstrates extraordinary precision. Base alignment. The 4 sides are aligned to cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, with remarkable accuracy. Deviation from true north, approximately 3 minutes of arc, 0.05 degrees. This precision required sophisticated astronomical observations. Method probably involved observing stars' positions and calculating true north from their movements. Base leveling. The base is nearly perfectly level. Maximum height difference across the 230-meter base. 2.1 sin, meter, less than 1 inch. This required sophisticated surveying techniques. Workers probably used water-filled trenches to establish level reference lines. Geometric precision. The 4 sides are nearly equal length. Maximum variation, 4.4 centimeters across 230 meters. The 4 corner angles are almost perfect 90-degree angles. Maximum deviation, 0. Or 5 degrees. This precision, over such enormous scale, is astonishing even by modern standards. Construction theories. How was the Great Pyramid actually built? This question has generated controversy for centuries. What we know for certain. 1. Quarrying. Core blocks, limestone from local Giza plateau quarries, casing stones, fine white Tura limestone from across the Nile, granite from Aswan, 800-plus kilometers south, basalt from Fayum region, Titid 2. Transportation. Stones moved from quarries on sledges pulled by workers. River transport for distant materials. Tura limestone, Aswan granite. Routes from Nile Harbor to construction site, about 1 kilometers. 3. Workforce. Recent discoveries of workers' settlements show workers were Egyptian citizens, not slaves. They were organized into rotating labor gangs. They were well fed, evidence of cattle, sheep, fish consumption. They received medical care. Skeletal remains show healed fractures treated by physicians. They lived in purpose-built settlements near the construction site. Disputed. How were blocks lifted? The ramp. Theories. External straight ramp. Theory. A massive ramp running straight up one face of pyramid. Advantages. Straightforward concept allows many workers to pull stones simultaneously. Problems. To maintain reasonable gradient, 10%, ramp would need to be 1.5 kilometer long and contain more material than pyramid itself. Would obscure pyramid faces, making it difficult to check geometry. No archaeological evidence for such massive ramps found at Giza. Spiral ramp. Theory. Ramp wrapping around pyramid's exterior. Advantages. Manageable size. Doesn't require excessive material. Problems. How to check corners and edges as construction proceeds. How to construct the pyramid's apex, pyramidion. Again, limited archaeological evidence. Internal ramp. Theory. Ramps built inside the pyramid structure. Advantages. Doesn't require external infrastructure, allows checking exterior geometry. Problems. How to remove ramps after construction without damaging pyramid. Would require careful planning to ensure ramps didn't intersect chambers. Complex engineering required. Combination approach, currently favored. External ramps for bulk of construction, perhaps spiraling or straight. Internal ramps for upper levels. Levers and rockers for final positioning. Different techniques for different construction phases. Ramps dismantled and material reused as work progressed. Recent theories. The Herodotus machine theory. Herodotus mentioned wooden machines that lifted stones from level to level. Some scholars propose lever and cradle systems positioned on each level. Stones were levered up from level to level rather than dragged up continuous ramps. Experimental archaeology shows this is feasible for blocks up to several tons. The internal ramp theory, Jean-Pierre Houdin, 2007. French architect proposed internal spiral ramp inside pyramid, external ramp for initial stages, then internal ramp for upper sections. The theory is controversial, but has generated significant interest. Some evidence from microgravimetry surveys hints at internal structures consistent with ramps, not yet proven or disproven conclusively. How long did construction take? Ancient sources. Herodotus claimed 20 years for pyramid construction, plus 10 years for infrastructure. This has been widely cited, but is based on information from Egyptian priests, 2,000 years after the fact. Modern calculations. Method. 1. Block by block. Analysis. 2. 3 million blocks, 20 years. There are 115,000 blocks per year. 115,000 blocks, 330 working days, assuming seasonal work. We are 348 blocks per day, 348 blocks, 10-hour workday, approximately 35 blocks per hour. This seems fast, but is achievable with multiple quarries operating simultaneously, parallel work on different faces of pyramid, increasingly smaller blocks needed at higher levels, faster to quarry and place. Method 2. Workforce analysis. Recent discoveries suggest workforce of 20,000, 30,000. If organized into gangs of 1,000, 2,000, multiple operations could proceed simultaneously. Quarrying, transporting, dressing stones, and placing could all occur in parallel. With sophisticated organization, 20-year timeline is feasible. Conclusion: 23 years, approximately Khufu's reign length, is reasonable estimate. Construction probably began early in reign, may have continued slightly beyond Khufu's death for finishing work. The interior, chambers, and passages. The Great Pyramid's interior is as remarkable as its exterior, a complex system of passages, chambers, and shafts that has puzzled researchers for centuries. The entrance. Original entrance, 17 meters above ground on north face. Descending passage, slopes downward at 26-degree angle. Current tourist entrance, created by Caliph al-Ma'mun in 820 CE, when he tunneled into the pyramid seeking treasure. The descending passage. Dimensions: approximately 1 meter wide, 1.2 meters high. Length 105 meters, descends through masonry, then bedrock. Leads to unfinished subterranean chamber carved in bedrock beneath pyramid. The subterranean chamber. Depth approximately 30 meters below pyramid base. Dimensions approximately 14 x 8 meters. Largely unfinished rough walls and floor. Purpose uncertain. Perhaps original burial chamber before plans changed? Symbolic underworld chamber? Decoy for tomb robbers? Part of ritual system. The ascending passage. Branches from descending passage, approximately 28 meters from entrance. Ascends at 26° angle, same as descending passage but going up, originally concealed by stone plug, leads to Grand Gallery and Queen's Chamber. The Queen's Chamber, misnomer. Located roughly at pyramid center at ground level. Dimensions 575 x 523 meters, height 626 meters, has corbelled pointed ceiling, called Queen's Chamber by medieval Arabs, but not for a queen. No evidence any queen was buried here. Name is mistaken medieval attribution. Actual purpose uncertain. Features. Niche in east wall. Purpose unknown statue. Offerings. 2 shafts that don't reach exterior, discovered 1872. These narrow channels, 20 x 20 cm, ascend through pyramid structure but stop before reaching outside. Purpose debated. Ventilation, symbolic passageways for Ka, spirit, astronomical alignments. In 1990s, robotic explorations found these shafts blocked by limestone blocks with copper handles. What's beyond remains mysterious ongoing research topic. The Grand Gallery. One of ancient architecture's marvels. Dimensions 46.68 meters long, 8.6 meters high, approximately 2 meters wide at base, corbelled ceiling. Each layer of stones projects slightly inward, creating soaring ceiling. Highly polished limestone walls, purpose uncertain. Passageway to King's Chamber, may have stored stone plugs used to seal passages after burial, perhaps ritual, symbolic function, representing ascent to heaven. The King's Chamber. The pyramid's burial chamber. Dimensions 1047 x 5,234 meters, height 5. 858 meters, entirely lined with red Aswan granite, at least 100 blocks weighing up to 80 tons each. Granite transported 800 kilometers from Aswan, enormous undertaking. Flat granite ceiling, 9 massive slabs spanning the chamber. Contents: granite sarcophagus. Still in situ too large to fit through passages, must have been placed during construction. Dimensions: 2.27 x 098 x 1. 05 meters. Empty, lid missing, possibly never had one. Carved from single block of red granite. Too large to fit through passages, must have been installed during construction. No inscriptions. Unusual, most royal sarcophagi were inscribed. No other objects found. Pyramid robbed in antiquity, probably multiple times. The relieving chambers. Above King's Chamber are 5 low chambers stacked vertically. These relieving chambers distribute weight of pyramid above, preventing collapse. Purpose: protect King's Chamber from enormous weight above. Construction: granite beams forming floors and ceilings. The topmost chamber has pointed ceiling to further distribute weight. Discovery and significance. Not accessible originally solid masonry with no entrances. Discovered by blasting through masonry. First chamber, Nathaniel Davison, 1765. Upper chambers, Howard Vyse, 1837. Used gunpowder to blast access. These chambers contain quarry marks, hieratic script, cursive writing, showing work gang names, friends of Khufu, the crew, the white crown of Khufu is powerful. Date notations referencing years of Khufu's reign. First definitive proof of Khufu as pyramid builder. Valuable evidence of construction organization. The air shafts. 2 narrow shafts, approximately 20 to 20 centimeters, extend from King's Chamber. 1 points north, 1 south. Both reach pyramid's exterior. Originally believed to be ventilation shafts. Now understood to have ritual, symbolic purpose. Northern shaft. Aimed at circumpolar stars. Stars that never set, symbolizing eternity. Southern shaft. Aimed at Orion's belt, associated with Osiris, god of resurrection. Purpose: provide passages for King's spirit to ascend to stars, sure heaven. Astronomical alignment suggests sophisticated understanding of celestial movements. The pyramid complex, more than a tomb. The Great Pyramid wasn't isolated. It was the centerpiece of a vast, complex serving ritual and administrative functions. The mortuary temple. Located on pyramid's east face, where daily rituals honoring dead king were performed. Priests made offerings, recited prayers, performed ceremonies. Most of structure destroyed, only basalt pavement remains. Original size, approximately 52 x 40 meters. Contained, sanctuary where offerings were made. Storage rooms for ritual equipment, rooms for priests. Open courtyard for ceremonies. The causeway, covered corridor connecting mortuary temple to valley temple. Length, approximately 825 meters. Width, approximately 5 meters. Covered roof with slots allowing light. Walls decorated with relief sculpture, mostly destroyed. Funeral procession would move through this corridor from Nile to pyramid. The valley temple. Located at edge of floodplain, where boats could dock. Acted as gateway to pyramid complex. Here, rituals began that culminated at pyramid. Most of Khufu's valley temple destroyed or buried under modern village. Later discoveries of basalt paving give hints of original grandeur. The subsidiary pyramids. 3 small pyramids on east side of Great Pyramid, often called Queen's Pyramids, built for Khufu's wives or daughters. G1A, probably for Queen Hetepheres II, G1b, probably for Queen Meretite, G1c, probably for Queen Henutsen. Each had own small mortuary temple, much smaller than King's Pyramid, base approximately 47-49 meters per side. The boat pits. 5 boat-shaped pits carved in rock around pyramid. 2 on south side contained disassembled wooden boats. The Khufu ship, discovered 1954. Disassembled cedar wood boat in pit south of pyramid. When reconstructed, 43.6 meters long, 9 meters wide, made from 1,224 pieces of cedar wood. One of oldest, largest, best-preserved boats from ancient world, now displayed in dedicated museum at Giza. Purpose: solar bark, boat for king's journey with sun god Ra across sky. Or actual boat used in king's funeral procession, symbolized journey to afterlife. The workers' settlement. Recent archaeological discoveries, 1990s, 2000s, uncovered extensive settlement, located southeast of Giza pyramids, housed workers who built pyramid. Evidence shows barrack-style housing for workers, bakeries producing thousands of loaves daily, breweries, beer was standard beverage safer than water, slaughterhouses processing cattle, copper and stone tool workshops, medical facilities, skeletal remains show healed fractures, amputations, administrative buildings with hieratic papyri recording work organization. What this tells us: workers were not slaves, but citizens fulfilling labor obligations. They were well fed, housed, and received health care. The operation was highly organized and bureaucratically managed. Sustaining 20,000, 30,000 workers required enormous logistical systems. The purpose. Why build the Great Pyramid? Why did Khufu devote such enormous resources to pyramid construction? Religious purpose. Resurrection machine. The pyramid was designed to ensure the king's successful journey to afterlife and transformation into an effective spirit. The king's body needed protection for eternity. The king's ka, the life force, needed sustenance through offerings. The pyramid's passages allowed the king's spirit to ascend to stars, heaven. Solar connection. The pyramid shape represented sun rays descending from heaven to earth. The pyramid was a physical manifestation of the sun's power. The king's transformation aligned with solar theology. The king joined the sun, God Ra, in daily journey across sky, cosmic mountain. The pyramid represented the Ben, the primordial mound that emerged at creation. By being entombed in this cosmic mountain, the king participated in eternal cycles of creation and renewal. Political purpose. Demonstration of power. The pyramid's enormous scale demonstrated the king's ability to command vast resources. It proved the king's divine sanction. Only with God's favor could such achievement occur. It consolidated royal authority by mobilizing entire kingdom in common project. National unity. Building the pyramid required coordination across all of Egypt. Provincial governors supplied workers, food, materials. The project created shared purpose and national identity. Success demonstrated the benefits of unified rule under divine king. Legitimization. The completed pyramid stood as permanent testament to royal power and divine favor. Its eternal presence reminded subjects of kings' enduring authority. Even after death, the king remained present through his monument. Economic purpose. Redistribution system. Pyramid construction redistributed royal wealth throughout society. Workers received wages, rations of bread, beer, meat. Provinces supplying materials and labor received royal patronage. The project stimulated economic activity craft production. Transport. Employment. During flood season, when agricultural work was impossible, pyramid construction employed workers. This prevented seasonal unemployment and social unrest. Workers gained skills: stoneworking, organization, logistics. The project created career opportunities for talented individuals. Social purpose. Social mobility. Talented individuals could rise through royal service. Architects, engineers, administrators gained status through pyramid projects. Workers who distinguished themselves received recognition. The pyramid bureaucracy created new positions and opportunities. National pride. Egyptians took pride in their collective achievement. The pyramid demonstrated Egypt's superiority over other nations. It gave Egyptians sense of participating in eternal, divinely sanctioned project. Afterlife for all. While the pyramid was the king's tomb, the king's successful transformation to benefited all Egyptians. The king, as effective spirit, could intercede with gods on behalf of his people. His eternal presence in pyramid ensured cosmic order. Ma'at continued. The legacy of the Great Pyramid. Ancient impact. Immediately became Egypt's most famous monument. Later pharaohs built pyramids at Giza to associate themselves with Khufu's achievement. By Middle Kingdom, 2,000 years later, already considered ancient and awesome, remained tallest human-made structure for 3,800 years. Greek and Roman wonder. Greeks listed it as one of 7 wonders of ancient world. Only wonder still standing today. Classical writers expressed awe and incomprehension, inspired countless theories about construction, some accurate, many fantastic. Medieval period. Arabs called it Mountain of Pharaoh. Many believed it contained treasure, leading to destructive searches. Much of fine limestone casing removed for building Cairo. Despite this vandalism, core structure remained intact. Modern fascinat. Eon, subject of endless scholarly study, popular books, documentaries, focus of numerous theories, some scientific, many pseudo-scientific, represents ancient Egypt in popular imagination, continues to inspire architects, engineers, and dreamers. What it represents. Human ambition reaching for immortality through permanent creation, organizational capability and technological sophistication of ancient civilizations, the power of unified human effort toward common goal, eternal testimony to human creative genius, the Sturs Khafre and the Second Pyramid of Giza, circa 2558 to 532 BCE. Khafre, Khafra, he appears like Ra. Greek, Chephren, son of Khufu, ruled for approximately 26 years and built the Second Pyramid at Giza. While slightly smaller than his father's pyramid, Khafre's complex is in many ways better preserved and includes one of ancient Egypt's most iconic monuments, the Great Sphinx. The Pyramid. Dimensions. Base, 215.25 meters per side. Original height 143.5 meters, now 136. 4 meters. Slope angle 50°10, slightly steeper than Great Pyramid's 51°50. Volume approximately 211,000 cubic meters. The illusion. Khafra's pyramid appears larger than Khufu's when viewed from certain angles. This is because it stands on higher ground, approximately 10 meters higher elevation. It has steeper slope angle. It retains its original casing stones at the apex, making it appear taller. The casing. Unlike the Great Pyramid, which lost almost all casing stones, Khafra's pyramid retains much of its original Tura limestone casing near the summit. This preserved section gives a sense of how all pyramids originally appeared: smooth, gleaming white surfaces. The lower portions show the rough core masonry after casing removal. Construction. Built using similar techniques to Great Pyramid. Some blocks even larger than Khufu's, some basement blocks weigh over 400 tons. Less complex internal structure than Great Pyramid. Perhaps lessons learned about where complexity was unnecessary. Internal structure. Much simpler than Great Pyramid's complex passages. 2 entrances, both on north face at different heights. One passage descends through bedrock to burial chamber. Burial chamber carved partly in bedrock, partly in pyramid masonry. Chamber contains granite sarcophagus, empty robbed in antiquity. Simplicity may reflect practical rather than ideological choice. Simpler meant stronger and faster to build. The Great Sphinx, guardian of the Giza plateau, the Brasham Great Sphinx, stands as one of ancient Egypt's most recognizable and enigmatic monuments. Description. Body. Lion, symbolizing royal power, strength, divine authority. Head. Human face, believed to represent Khafra, though some scholars debate this. Dimensions. Length, 73 meters. Width, 19 meters, at haunches. Height, 20 meters, approximately 6-story building. Material. Carved from single massive outcrop of limestone bedrock. K. Orientation. Faces due east, watching sunrise. Construction method. The Sphinx wasn't built, it was carved. Workers found a large limestone outcrop left over from pyramid quarrying. They carved away surrounding stone, shaping what remained into the Sphinx. The body is relatively soft limestone, deteriorates easily. The head is harder limestone, better preserved. Evidence of original paint-red ochre on face and body, yellow and blue elsewhere. The face. Believed to represent Khafra. Nemi's headdress, royal striped headcloth, false beard, now lost fragments in British Museum and Cairo Museum, royal uraeus, serpent on forehead, mostly broken off, face disproportionately small compared to body theories, original design, or face recarved in later period. Some argue head was reshaped, making it smaller. Purpose. Guardian of the Giza necropolis. Protective role. Lions traditionally guarded sacred spaces. Solar connection faces east to greet rising sun. May represent fusion of human intelligence and animal strength. Embodied the pharaoh's role as protector. The missing nose. One of history's most famous examples of vandalism. Common myth. Napoleon's soldiers shot it off with cannons during Egyptian campaign, 1798–1801. Truth. The nose was already missing when Napoleon arrived. Drawings from 1737 show Sphinx already noseless. 15th century Arab historian al-Makrizi blamed 14th century Sufi Muslim named Muhammad Sa'im al-Dahr, who vandalized it in 1378 for religious reasons, objecting to people making offerings to the Sphinx. The nose may have fallen off due to erosion even earlier. Mysteries and controversies. The age. Question. Mainstream Egyptology dates Sphinx to Khafra's reign, circa 2558–2532 BCE. Evidence. Style of face matches Old Kingdom royal sculpture. Causeway from Khafra's Valley Temple runs directly to Sphinx. Quarry marks suggest contemporary with Old Kingdom. Alternative, the Ories. Controversial and generally rejected by mainstream archaeology. Some claim water erosion patterns suggest Sphinx is much older, 7,000–5,000 BCE. Mainstream response. Patterns result from wind erosion, salt weathering, and poor quality limestone, not water erosion from ancient rainfall. No credible evidence supports pre-dynastic date. The Temple. In front of the Sphinx stands the Sphinx Temple, built from massive limestone blocks, some weighing 200 tons, open courtyard with granite pillars. Purpose: rituals honoring the Sphinx as divine guardian, connected to Khafra's Valley Temple, suggesting contemporary construction. Later history. The Sphinx has been buried and excavated multiple times throughout history. For much of ancient and medieval history, only the head was visible body buried in sand. New Kingdom Pharaoh Thutmose IV, circa 1401–1391 BCE, cleared sand and erected the dream stele between Sphinx's paws. Stele tells story. Prince Thutmose rested in Sphinx's shadow.